So another huge theory is this sacred mushroom and the cross, written in 1970 by this John Marco Allegro. And I haven't read this book, but I've heard the theory talked about a lot, that Christianity is just this misunderstood, and it's really this fertility cult that was all centered around the Amanita muscaria mushroom, and that Jesus is perhaps a mushroom himself, and it's
Yeah.
all a metaphor.
Yeah.
What do you think about that theory?
So, I'm going to speak from somebody who used to absolutely believe that theory.
Maybe you
And
can articulate the theory better than I can,
oh,
because I don't
no, I
know
think
it.
you kind of
Did,
nailed
did
it.
I? Okay.
Yeah, you totally
Yeah.
nailed it. Yeah, that I couldn't have said it better. I
Okay,
mean,
right on.
that's it, you know.
Yeah.
There's then I would just add, there's the sort of the offshoot theory of the mushroom in Christian art now as well. And it sort of went in that direction, and we could get into that or not. But so I used to actually believe the sacred mushroom and the cross, like the whole theory. And one of the first books I was going to write was on the holy mushroom. I read, the all the books on, well, not all of them, but the majority of them, and I didn't feel like anybody, like any of the authors, had actually made a really good case for it. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to set out to demonstrate that this is true. And the more I tried to show it was true, the more I was like, wow, there's nothing to this at all. And it was actually very disheartening because I loved that theory. But there were too many issues with it. There's problems of textual transmission. Like Allegro thought that people were, they were coding these secret mushroom messages into the words of the New Testament. And textual transmission in the ancient world, like you couldn't just go to a bookstore and buy a book. I mean, they had to be copied out painstakingly by hand. And when you do that, you're going to make mistakes. Everyone will make mistakes if you're trying to copy something out by hand. And that's just not a very sufficient way to encode a message. On top of which, most people there was wide illiteracy at the time. And a lot of these sort of compound words that Allegro was using to prove his point, he just made them up. Like, well, if you have to make up the word, like if there's no actual precedent in the Sumerian language or in the ancient Hebraic language or in any ancient Semitic language, what are you talking about? Like, okay, I just made up the word, I don't know, whatever, peluche. And that means that the ancient people believe that Tom Hatsis is right about everything he says. It's like, well, is there any ancient word bullshit? No, I just made it up. So,
So why did this idea get so popular in the first place?
because it's sexy. It's an
Okay.
awesome, like, I mean, how intriguing is that Jesus was really like a metaphor for magic mushroom usage.
And so it's like you eat his body and
Yeah,
you,
exactly.
okay.
Yeah, and this has been carried out in secret by this cabal of, occult priests who have, covered up for all these centuries. Dude, it's essentially the Da Vinci Code, and you add a psychedelic to it. I mean, it's awesome. Like, I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I have so much fun with it. Like, I love reading those books. I don't buy it, but I loved John Marco Allegro's book. I loved The Sacred Mushroom. I read it like, I don't know, 5.5 times because it's so deep in etymology that, like, I mean, I couldn't understand it on the first read. In fact, I couldn't understand it on the second or the third read either. But I eventually got it. I got what he was saying, and there's just, unfortunately, there's nothing to it. And if there were something to it, just like Ergata Lucis, I would be the first person standing on every rooftop of the bullhorn saying Jesus was really a magic mushroom, But I can't. I can't just skew evidence to make myself sound right. I can't do it.
But John Marco Allegro could.
I guess so. I mean, he was he was brilliant. And I think that sometimes people with his level of brilliance, it's like they're so smart that they can't conceive that they could be wrong about anything. He was absolutely brilliant. I mean, there was a reason he was tapped to be one of the scholars of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was actually the youngest person. Everybody else was, long in the tooth. And he was young because he was that good. And his first few books on the Dead Sea Scrolls, they were bestsellers. I mean, he was celebrated as this like renowned Dead Sea Scrolls scholar. And he just sort of, I don't know, I think that he got he was upset. I don't want to psychoanalyze him because I never met him and he's dead, but it's possible that he just got really upset with what he was finding in the sources and the slowness with which the translators were allowed to release their findings. And I think it's possible that he just wanted to stick it to, the team that he was working with and the church as well. And this was just his last, you can't fire me, I quit, F you, I'm out kind of thing. But I don't ultimately know what would cause a person to tank their career like that.
Yeah, because coming out with this theory is most certainly going to tank his career.
It did.
Even if it's true, it's going to tank your career.
Yeah, that's the thing. And if he could have demonstrated it was true, and if he could have shown that his detractors were totally wrong, you're right. It still probably could have hurt his career anyway. But he wasn't able to do that. And his detractors were able to show how he was incorrect. So it's a shame because I love it as a concept, but we have to go again with what probably happened in the past. So is it probable Jesus was a metaphor for the magic mushroom? Of course. We're talking about 2,000 years ago. It's possible or probable, but is it more probable that Allegro is wrong? Yeah, that's more probable.
Yeah, I think that's Occam's razor. I believe that's the principle. The simplest story is often the most true.
Yeah. The simple choice is usually
if you have to contort all these things to make this secret cabal of conspiracies fit together, then I don't know.
Yeah.
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence.
Oh, Christopher Hitchens, exactly. Yeah.
So it certainly is one of those exciting theories that gets your dopamine levels firing off, I guess.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people on the internet today. This is kind of a side note that they have a little bit of evidence, but then they have this extraordinary claim based off of that little bit of evidence, and it gets tons of attention. But maybe years later, we come out, somebody does all the thinking and research and says, this is so wrong. But by that time, the attention has kind of moved on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And especially in the age of the internet and the way social media works, it's like we're all doing it for the likes and reactions. So if you see something scandalous like Jesus was a magic mushroom, I mean, you're going to share that, on Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is. And then, if you found it intriguing, and it is intriguing, well, other people are going to find it intriguing too, and they're going to share it as well. And then, before you know it, I'm saying like, hey, what's the evidence? And everyone was telling me to shut up. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.